Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we can have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. This is turning a lot drier through this upcoming weekend into next week with high pressure sat over the top of us. It will have a slight easterly flow to it, nothing nearly as cold as some of the models were showing a few days ago, but chilly easterly winds, and it could mean many areas on average to slightly below average in the day, and quite cold and frosty overnight, especially further southwards, with many areas getting well below freezing in the night time. Now that pattern looks likely to continue for the foreseeable future, as we'll see on the GFS, GEM, ECMWF and the ensembles, with average to maybe slightly below average upper air temperatures and higher pressure in control. There are signs it could ridge northwards, perhaps pulling in colder air, or properly cold air, let's just say, but at this stage, no definitive signal for any of that. And there are also some sort of patterns showing westerly winds coming back in, but again, no distinct chance of that at this stage. Just looking likely for the next week or so at least, high pressure is going to very much be in control. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So as you can see on the live radar at the moment, it's generally dry, but there is a lot of small areas of green here just scattered around. Again, those are drizzly showers around within the thicker cloud, especially over the higher ground, but again, nothing too crazy, just a slight weather front moving southwards and eastwards, a bit of moisture within the air, and thicker cloud in general. So yes, you might not have these drizzly showers, but it's generally pretty cloudy for most areas, but it should break up over the coming days, and it should be drier and brighter. And as I'm recording this, around 3 PM, those temperatures are generally quite mild for the time of year. A lot of yellows appearing on the charts, again indicative of temperatures around that 10 to 12 degree range. Some areas could even be slightly milder than that, so very mild for early February, but it's only going to be on a downwards trend over the coming days, even though the upper air temperatures aren't going to get ridiculously cold at the surface. As said, with an easterly flow coming off of the near continent, low dew points, it will allow those temperatures to fall relatively low, back down to average, if not below average, as we head into next week. So if we do go over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, you can see a bit of weather front moving through at the moment, and that's giving that patchy showers, but it is eroding away. Overnight into tomorrow, generally drier once again, and into tomorrow afternoon, still very cloudy, and another weather front moving through, a bit more organised, a bit more lighter to moderate rainfall along it, but again, nothing crazy for eventually clears southwards and eastwards and gives much drier conditions into Sunday, and clear skies for many. There will be, at times, cloud pushing in, and that will continue into Monday, but still generally clear skies in many southern and eastern areas, and that's where we can see the coolest temperatures, especially overnight. Into Tuesday as well, weather front tries to push in, but still getting degraded away by that high pressure. It doesn't really make its way anywhere further southwards or eastwards, and then finally into Wednesday, still very dry and relatively cool. You see the upper air temperatures are nothing spectacularly cold, around average if not below average for the time of year, again indicating cool but nothing crazy cold. But the dew points you can see well down towards low single digits, if not below freezing, especially in the south where we have the strongest easterly flow, and that is because we're coming in from the air mass is coming in from the near continent, very dry and cool air. If you look at the max temperatures over the course of the next 5 days, you can see this afternoon widely 10 to 12 degrees, really quite mild, and overnight temperatures not dropping much below the mid to high single digits. However, into the afternoon, 8 to 10 degrees tomorrow, so slightly cooler but still above average. And then finally into Saturday evening into Sunday, much cooler air spreading in from the north, widespread frost there, and into Sunday afternoon, widely a cooler day, 5 to 7 degrees. And as we head into Monday, a widespread frost for many areas, might be -2 to -5, and then into Monday afternoon, cool once again, average to below average, 5 to 7 degrees, even cooler in some spots. And finally into Tuesday, another widespread overnight frost in the south and the east, and into Tuesday afternoon, once again 5 to 7 degrees, and again into And into Wednesday morning, again, frosts where we do have clearer skies. So you can see not too much changing in terms of the actual weather, in terms of cloud and precipitation. It will be getting slightly drier, but it is pretty dry at the moment, and it should be getting clearer as well, especially further southwards. But it will be turning quite a bit colder. Temperatures average to below average in the day and well below freezing overnight wherever we do have clear skies. Those areas though could change at the 3 to 5 day time frame because it all is dependent on cloud amounts which can fluctuate at very short time periods. If we do now have a look at the longer range, if we go to the GFS and then we'll have a look at the GM Eastern WF and the ensembles, of course, the GFS was producing bitterly cold easterly winds the last few days, has, of course, backed off from that, as we said in yesterday's video. Now, just with high pressure over the top of us, a slack easterly flow. Now, you can see running through high pressure over the top, slack easterly flow could actually get some relatively cool air in at times, and you can see slight areas of low pressure coming in, perhaps into next weekend. Again, that could provide a bit of precipitation, which could be wintry of nature, but it is still a week away, so these subtle changes may not occur. Beyond that, high pressure just stays over the top of us and eventually right into the longer range. Lower pressure tumbles back in, but that high pressure tries to shift further northwards and dive that low down towards Iberia and down into France, which could pull in cooler air, but again, nothing too distinctive here. The main pattern really is just for higher pressure to dominate really from the GFS, perhaps with more of a stronger easterly wind in around a week's time, maybe bringing slightly cooler air and maybe some showers as well. But again, no definitive signal for that at this stage. If we look at the GEM, see how that does compare out to day 10. High pressure building in at the moment, slack easterly flow, but more of a westerly wind influence here, especially in the north and the west, holding that high pressure at bay further eastwards. And that continues all the way to day 10, and actually, in the longer run, starts to build up a bit of a southerly wind. Again, nothing particularly mild, with France and Spain got relatively cool air masses, but once again, nothing amazingly cold either, so just generally around average, probably even with those slightly above average upper air temperatures. An inversion towards the surface will keep it relatively cool. If you do look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, high pressure building over the top of us with a slack easterly flow, keeping us relatively cool, but low pressure breaking through at times here. But the high pressure is hanging on in towards day 10. You can see in all three runs it does try to ridge northwards, but never gets really much further northwards than a bit of Scandinavia and maybe Iceland, and just keeping a generally southeasterly or southerly flow into the UK. Again, not amazingly mild, it'd have to be a much more far-fetched southerly to be pulling in any milder air, but it is generally cool with an inversion, frost and fog in places. So again, pretty pleasant, pretty dry, and pretty decent. If we finish by having a look at the ensembles, you can see from the GFS it's around average, maybe slightly above, slightly below at times. Some colder runs around the 10th of February point, but again, those very much are those outlier runs pulling in cold air mass for a time. The majority generally have us around freezing or to around -4 at 850 HPA average, just slightly below or slightly above. But with the higher pressure, dry conditions and clear skies, it will probably end up slightly below average with overnight frosts and temperatures in the day around that 5 to 7 degree mark. Precipitation does increase in the longer term, but again, nothing too substantial, and we need to see a much higher signal for this to be saying any low pressure is moving in anytime soon. But as I said, generally around average and pretty dry. You can see the mean sea level pressure is well above 1,030 millibars for the majority of ensemble members for the next 10 days or so. Again, very dry. The 2 meter temperatures are cooling down considerably next week. As I said, down towards 5 to 7 degrees, may fluctuate slightly, and we'll have to see with that. But as I said, the big thing is the dew points, well below freezing into next week. Again, showing a cool easterly continental airflow. If we do finish by looking at the ECMWF, again, you can see generally average, maybe it's slightly above average here, but again, with a higher pressure and easterly flow, it's most likely going to feel colder than average, and on the thermometer be around average or slightly below average, but again, very similar to the GFS. The one thing is, if we look further northwards, it could actually be slightly cooler. than, slightly milder than the south. You can see it's still around average or slightly above average or below at times, but the these temperatures are not going to be too different to London, maybe even slightly milder into next week, more towards the higher pressure side, towards the centre, to the northern edge of the high pressure, perhaps starting to pull slight westerly influence in. Again, nothing too crazy, not really bringing anything in, maybe a bit of cloud or drizzle at times, but could bring in a hint of slightly milder air. And that's why early next week you can see here more 5, 6, 7 or even higher at times. So we'll have to see exactly how it does play out. But anyway, looking generally under higher pressure, looking generally pretty chilly, but nothing crazy cold, with a lot of frost and fog around. But I think most people could agree, some decent dry weather. Most people will love to see that and enjoy that into February. There are signs it could shift further northwards and could pull in colder air, but we're not looking at that at any point imminently, i.e. in the next 7 days or so. Not looking likely at all. But of course, we'll have to keep an eye. We've seen how much the models have shifted over the last few days, so some things can crop up very quickly, and I'll keep you updated with that, of course, over the coming days. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.